The results coming back all keep pointing to the existence of a larger, stronger system. It's our challenge now to be able to track this down and ultimately figure out where the various sources are for the gold mineralization. And it's looking now like we have multiple sources out there. It's not just one. That search is now taking us into the rest of the district, and that's in part based upon the geophysical work that we did early on in 2021, 2022.
The East Ridge target's really interesting because it's something that, based on past operators and kind of the thought process, is that this wasn't rooted.
It was sampled by Kinross and Goldfields back in the late 1990s. And we took our own samples to confirm the work that was done. Past explorers, their feeling was it was just a veneer. It was thin, and therefore it wasn't worth the trouble of trying to construct roads up there to try to drill it. When the CSAMT data came back, you clearly see a low resistance V-shaped structure running through that ridge. And this was intriguing because it's a detached anomaly. It stands on its own. And we thought, well, there's something else going on here. Obviously, the CSAMT is strongly suggesting that this is a rooted anomaly, that it may have some depth potential to it, which means that if you drill down into this thing, there could be the possibility of finding some sort of gold deposit that's hosted within the dolomite. We could have a very different type of target there than we see in the pit area immediately to the west. The risk associated with trying to get a road up there and trying to get it drilled is not that high relative to what we could potentially be hitting based on the CSAMT.
The results came back essentially showing over 20 meters of over a gram material, all oxide, all hosted in an intrusive breccia pipe that showed that there was depth to that and that it was actually rooted. So this is something that, okay, well, CSAMT is proving to flesh out pretty well. Where can we apply this elsewhere?
This is really the significance of the East Ridge target. It gave us a one-to-one correlation. And now whole HG41 and the Quartzite Ridge area gives us a second one. With these two well-defined associations between intrusive rock and gold mineralization and low resistivity, this opens up a very large area for us.
This is line 17. This is where we see some historic drilling, which is very little in a lot of these targets. We have only a handful of historic drill holes that have been put down. This is starting to become our crossroads target. Now, our crossroads target, aptly named because these two holes were put down right here in the crossroads of the county roads, were put down about 7 meters apart from each other, and they were both minus 45-degree angle holes to the east. And what we found here from historical drill data, again, is this gradational change from high resistivity to low resistivity. The mineralization picks up right here. Both of these holes were put down by Golden Chief in 1996, and both of them had a consistent horizon of mineralization, one running just shy of a gram over 9 meters and 1/2 of a gram over 6 meters, with some intervals running as close to 2 grams. We are going to test more over here to try to follow the vectors of mineralization. Over here, we start to pick up our northeast target. And what our northeast target's going to be testing is here you can see large Paleozoic blocks that have essentially been faulted. This would be our West Atlanta fault if we were to continue to project that up. You can see it would be a west dipping fault that runs northeast through our northeast target. I rotate back down, west dipping this way. And what we have here is the faint signature of what looks to be a potential intrusive coming up along this structure. Now, this is something that would be akin to possibly HG41, where we have intrusive mineralization because it's trapped by less permeable Paleozoic basement rock as it kind of surrounded by it. And we also have the plume coming up along what would be our West Atlanta fault number 1. Now, this West Atlanta Fault number 1, again, travels north about 1.5 kilometers along strike through the pit and out into the basin. And we can see that this plume is also following up along what would be the extent of the West Atlanta Fault number 1. And it's giving a signature that we've become very familiar with, especially in the South Quartzite Ridge, where we have what seems to be a deep-seated plume coming up of intrusive material, hitting a less permeable rock type, which would be, in this case, carbonate, and blowing out laterally. So we have a possible intrusive style mineralization following the West Atlanta Fault, as well as the West Atlanta Fault number 1. With the Northeast target and the Lone Ranger target, we have our West Atlanta 1 coming up this way, and we have our West Atlanta Fault coming up this way, and we have what seems to be a westward verging intrusive coming up and following the pathways of these structures, potentially being great targets for exploration on mineralization. Lone Ranger target, we can see the plume coming up. This would be, for the Lone Ranger target, hypothesized to be mineralization more akin to what we see in the West Atlanta Graben, with the intrusive coming up along the West Atlanta Fault in the West Atlanta Graben and depositing a mixture of styles of mineralization, whether that be along the unconformity here, where we see gradational change in silicified breccias, or intrusive style hosted mineralization. And then here we have in the middle, we have our Northeast target. Again, we have this kind of vestiges of what seems to be the plume blowing out on the east side and the west side. Well, here on the east side, it's following the hypothesized extension of the West Atlanta Fault. Each of these targets is unique in the sense that there might be different styles of mineralization, but they all have a very strong relationship with both structure and the deep intrusive heat system that seems to be beneath this CSAMT section. We've been able to, for the past 2.5 years, extensively drill the historic Atlanta mine and use this as a very good analogy as we get better constraints and understanding on what CSAMT signatures mean out here at Atlanta and how we can apply this to quite a large land package. So I appreciate your time, and we'll keep you informed as we find out more. Thank you.